I could listen to this beat for a while. I don't really feel like talking, so maybe we will. Hope you're doing well out there, everybody. It's the Big Five. I'm Elias Makos. Sorry I wasn't here last couple of days on Thursday and Friday. I was out with the flu. I got the flu. And I want to thank all of you for your messages. And they keep coming in. Because if you were listening on Wednesday, at around 10 o'clock, I told you the story how my dog wasn't doing well and the sort of decisions I had to make because he's almost 14 years old. So I leave you on that note, and then the next 2 days I'm sick. A lot of you thought that I had to put my dog down last week, and that's why I was away, which is a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of thing. My dog is still with us, but I got the flu, and I was sick as a dog over the weekend, but now I'm back. I'll have more on my puppy situation in hour 2 of the program. For now, Big Five. Let's talk about what you want to talk about. In the studio this morning, and I'm really happy. On a day where I'm just not at my 100%, I have my 100%ers in the studio. Trudy Mason. Hi, Trudy.
Good morning.
Egbert Gay. How you doing?
How you doing?
Of course, Egbert's the founder and editor of Montreal Community Contact. Guys, let's do the topics, shall we? Mm-hmm. First things first. Iran, over the weekend, admitted to shooting down Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752, killed 176 people, many Canadians. A lot of people saying this is on Donald Trump, and that includes people like the CEO of Maple Leaf Foods. Did you see this tweet? Did you see this tweet storm that came from the Maple Leaf Foods account? You guys see it before I read it to you?
I saw it.
You saw it? Mm-hmm. Trudy, you saw it?
Yeah.
So this was tweeted out from the official Maple Leaf Foods account. Okay? I'll read it for you. This is what it came out. It was around 12 hours ago. I'm Michael McCain, CEO of Maple Leaf Foods, and these are personal reflections. I am very angry, and time isn't making me less angry. A Maple Leaf Food colleague of mine lost his wife and family this week to a needless, irresponsible series of events in Iran. U.S. government leaders, unconstrained by checks and balances, concocted an ill-conceived plan to divert focus from political woes. The world knows Iran is a dangerous state, but the world found a path to contain it, not perfect, but by most accounts it was the right direction. A narcissist in Washington tears world accomplishments apart, destabilizes the region, U.S. now unwelcomed everywhere in the area, including Iraq. Tensions escalated to feverish pitch. Taking out despicable military leader terrorist, there are 100 like him, standing next in line. The collateral damage of this irresponsible, dangerous, ill-conceived behavior, 63 Canadians needlessly lost their lives in the crossfire, including the family of one of my Maple Leaf Food colleagues, his wife, and 11-year-old son. We are mourning, and I am livid. Signed, Michael McCain, CEO, Maple Leaf Foods. What do you think about that? Pretty direct way. I know some Canadians would love to see the Prime Minister talk that candidly and directly about the causes of this crash. Obviously, he's got to be a little bit more diplomatic. Right. But what do you think about a CEO saying, I'm going to use my own company, personal social media, and I'm going to go out like this?
McCain has the capacity to speak through to power in a way that most other people can't. He has a big voice, and he can carry a message beyond what the average guy can't. And you know what? When he zeroes in on Trump, he's not too far out of place. Trump is a powerful man. Donald Trump, as president of one of the most powerful nations known to man, every act, every tweet, everything that he does carries consequences. In this action, in the sequence of events in Iran, the sequence of events that led to the shooting down of this plane started with Trump. He is not solely responsible. We have a regime in Iran that is hardly friendly to its people. It's very repressive. It's very insular. They too have to carry half the blame. But again, you have to trace every act have some sort of consequence. And Donald Trump, for the most part, he knows that. He knows that he's at the head of a machinery that has to be contained and responsible and to be restraining at times, and he doesn't act that way. So McCain is saying some of the right things.
Trump's to blame? Trump's to blame?
He
Directly to blame for this?
He started the sequence of events that led to the death of 57 Canadians. You figure out if he's to blame or if we're going to assign blame to one person. They're all to blame. The regime, the despots in Iran, just as Trump is.
Well, yeah, I think that if you only go back so far, you could possibly pin this on Donald Trump's decision to take out that general. But if you go back a little bit further and you look at what the general was doing, you realize that it did not start with Donald Trump. And in fact, this guy was active with impunity through the Obama years. And the U.S. either couldn't touch him. That's the story we're getting, is they couldn't touch him then. But they could actually touch him now with some certainty and with minimal collateral damage. So I don't think it starts and ends with Donald Trump. And I understand that the head of Maple Leaf Foods is reacting the way a lot of us react when this stuff happens. We feel powerless in the face of loss that maybe touches us personally. So we try and find somebody to lash out at. But like probably the vast majority of people on social media, he thinks that by yelling on social media, something's going to change. And to that I said, of all the kabillion trillion tweets, anti-Donald Trump tweets and Facebook posts that we have seen since this man declared his intention to go for the U.S. presidency, have any of them made one whit of difference?
Well,
and the answer, Elias, is no. Not one tweet has made a whit of difference to the way Donald Trump behaves and the decisions he makes.
McCain's decision to speak is not to trigger change. McCain's decision is an expression of anger and helplessness.
Trudy,
and
which
grief,
I get.
Soleimani actually was tweeting memes about Donald Trump, and a lot of people say it's one of the reasons he was killed was because on Twitter he was one of those vocal guys that would mock Trump on Twitter. And so, I mean, it's funny you say, have any of these tweets ever changed? Like, there's a good argument he made. Like, the reason he's dead is because he was vocal on Twitter.
Isn't that
and that
sign
seems to be what Donald Trump cares about.
Yeah, I know, but isn't that the sign to all the Donald Trump people that they should shut up and maybe he'll start behaving better? To actually stop baiting him on Twitter and Facebook, and maybe he will start acting like a president?
He is a narcissist, Trudy.
The fact of the matter is...
It sounds like you're defending a president that acts based on Twitter politics.
I'm pointing out that regime is a terrible regime, and that man personally was a terrible violence-mongering terrorist. So I'm not going to shed any tears over him or the U.S. president who made a decision to take him out.
Except, Miss Mason, we had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Iranians mourning the loss of that terrible man. Again, we can't separate the regime from the people. The people went out and expressed their grief over Donald Trump's decision to kill the guy. State assassination has no place in international politics.
I think you have to take, first of all, crowd estimates out of Iran with a grain of salt, just like the ones we get here for certain demonstrations. I was just reading an allegation today that the Iranians blocked certain roads in order to make the crowds look bigger. And you have to understand, in a repressive regime, people are afraid that if they don't go, there will be repercussions. Let's back it up to those anti-regime protests that we were seeing a couple of months ago. Remember, there were problems with gasoline supplies and so on, and the regime opened fire on those
100%. But you cannot separate the regime from the people in certain instances. They're both dedicated to their countries.
The top stories in the city. The Big Five on the Elias Macco Show.
Back here on the Big Five, Trudy Mason, Egbert Gay in studio with me. The Francois Legault Comedy Hour continues. Guys, do you remember when he was in California and he was with the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and he made that joke about how all Quebecers are Catholic? Remember that? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So over the weekend, he's hanging out with the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Dwight Ball. They met in St. John's on Sunday, and he took the time when he was meeting with reporters to deliver a few words about John Crosbie, who had passed away. And I want you to listen to how it went down.
I'd like to take a few minutes also to say a few words about John Crosbie. Of course, I follow politics since many years, so I've seen a guy dedicating his life to politics here at the federal level. He was a very good speaker. His son is not as great. That's a joke. No, but I think John Crosbie was a great man, and we have to thank him.
So he's trying to pay tribute to John Crosbie, and the process makes fun of his son. He has apologized, and the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador has had to apologize because I guess he laughed when that bad joke came out. Should Francois Legault nix the ad-libbing, particularly in English when it comes to jokes? Because it doesn't seem like he's got the gift of comedy.
Well, you know, what's the big deal here? I mean, the problem here is the sensibilities of people. Look, I personally don't think it was that big a deal. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a big deal. Like, listen, when he made that joke with Gavin Newsom in California, I didn't think it was a big controversy, big deal.
Right.
But I thought it was an example of like, hey, this is not your forte. Lay off this kind of stuff because, especially in English, you're looking bad. And now he just looks like a buffoon.
It makes him personable. I mean, look, the deal here is, we have to stay focused on what you're saying. He was saying his main point is John Crosbie is an amazing Canadian.
Yeah.
And he's an exceptional speaker.
Oh, and by the
way,
big,
grand personality.
And by the way, his son
who is in politics also, might not be as great a speaker. Oh, it's a joke. But listen, here's the deal.
Who does that when somebody's just died? Who does that?
It's an aside. It's just like it really was not, because he went right back pointing to the greatness of John Crosbie. I mean, what's the big deal?
Just that he looks bad. And he should stop doing that.
And it makes him look human, right? And that's what you want, truly.
Well, I also didn't think it was such a big deal. The little shot he took it. I don't think we would even be talking about.
Though.
Well, it was a shot at the sun. It was a shot at the sun saying he's not as good a speaker.
Are you a greater speaker as John Crosbie? No one is. Remember that guy?
Can I just point out that John Crosbie is most famous for a misogynist attack on a female parliamentarian?
And can I point right back out that Sheila Copps is his good friend today? Was his good friend last week?
Yeah.
It's, same thing.
I'm a little up to here with John Crosbie is a great speaker. We've been hearing that for several days now in his memory, and let's remember exactly what he was saying at the time.
I'm just saying people that aren't great speakers shouldn't be knocking others for not being as great a speaker as someone else. I'm just saying.
I find that this is a small transgression. The problem with what he said in California is that it was inaccurate, and it illustrated his mindset that you are not a Quebecer unless you are a Catholic and what's understood as like a Dessouche Francophone Catholic. But that was the implication. That's why that was controversial.
But I think
this was just an awkward line.
I think both of these things came out is because he's not a native English speaker and he's trying to ad-lib in English and he's saying awkward things. So if I'm his advisor, I say, you know what, Francois? Stop doing this kind of stuff when you're in a situation in English because you're striking out and it makes you look bad. It doesn't make you look good when you make these kind of comments. And I I don't think that comment in California, he was, he may have been inaccurate, but I think he was just like, oh, I'm with Gavin Newsom. I need to have some funny zinger. And he should not be doing that. Stick to your lines, especially in English. Okay. Let's talk about, what about this so-called ice storm over the weekend? I know Montreal got spared from most of the damage, but Not for every region in Quebec. The Liberal MP for Brossard, Alexandra Mendez, lost her mind on Twitter, as one does, right? Because if you want to be negative, you've got to do it on Twitter. And she tweeted some nasty stuff to Hydro-Quebec about the power being out for quite some time. I got to say, does she have a point here? Or should a federal MP know a little bit better when it comes to ice storms and how you're not going to get your power back. Everyone's not going to get their power back instantaneously.
I don't know. I think, look, Hydro-Quebec invests a lot of money in research and development. Mm-hmm. We pay a lot for that. It is a state corporation, and people should address the constant outages that come with almost any little aberration in the weather and climate. I mean, it's frustrating, and it's okay for someone to express frustration. It doesn't matter what portfolio they carry. I think it's all right. It really is not that big a deal for her to say it. I think she's expressing the frustration that a lot of people feel towards Hydro-Quebec's inability to keep things together in the face of any little
but as long as the lines are above ground, it's not going to change, and Hydro can't change the weather.
Well, no, but they can change the way that the weather affects them. I mean, that's human. That's the capacity of human. That's why they invest in research and development. And we haven't seen any significant changes. We've seen any little weather upheaval, Hydro goes down, and she's right to challenge them to do better.
Well, the expression that came to my mind when I was reading about her post was entitled princess, because you know what? The weather was actually unusual. We had warnings about the weather, and I think that what you have to remember about power failures during ice storms is that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they're caused because private property owners don't trim their trees. And, just last fall, Kevin and I were looking at our trees and we realized we're going to have to get an arborist in to trim them because if one of them fell, it would fall right on a hydro line and black out us and maybe some of our neighbors too. So this is a responsibility of private property owners. Some other failures are caused by different reasons.
I think you're blaming the victim, Trudy.
Well, I'm not blaming the victim. I'm just pointing out that Hydro-Quebec can't do it all. And you know what else happens when Hydro-Quebec goes in and does mass tree trimming? People complaining about Hydro butchering the trees. So what way do we want it? Do we want Hydro butchering our trees, or do we want a power failure that, in her case, it was 12 hours? Whoopee-doo.
Oh, in the middle of winter? What are you talking about? In the middle of a Quebec winter, what you want is for Hydro to maintain grids that would protect, that would be, insulating people from those arbitrary and constant outages. That's what people want.
Yeah,
and they pay a lot for it.
In a perfect world, that would happen.
It's not a perfect world, but they invest a lot in Hydro.
I blame Twitter on this one because, of course, she went to Twitter to release this nonsense because you have to go to Twitter to be negative. Can't go anywhere else.
Because it changes things.
Yeah.
It's obviously, again, the mindset that if you yell loud enough and long enough on Twitter, something, damn it, will change. Because stomp your foot, I am expressing displeasure.
Guys, were you at Joe Beef on Saturday night?
Trudy could afford it, not me.
No way.
Neither of you were at Joe Beef on Saturday night? Well, if you were at Joe Beef for dinner on Saturday night, here's what you would have heard.
There are no moral and ethical justification to patronize the killing and exploitation of 2 trillion animals this year alone. We demand that animals be freed of all exploitation. It's not food.
So a group of insufferable vegans, I know that phrase is redundant, were at Joe Beef on Saturday to protest people eating meat. Listen, do you give it to them? Hey, you know what? They've got a cause. They want to protest it. Or do you say, you know what? Leave people alone. Let them eat their meal. And go away with your pale skin and low iron.
You know what? It was nonviolent. I'm kind of surprised they managed to get through the door with their placards, because usually that would not happen. The staff would block them.
There's a lot of them. It's hard to block.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly, I have zero opposition to them out if they're staying outside the business and demonstrating in a reasonable way and letting their voices be heard. Inside, I think it was a little bit more of an irritant, but it was non-violent. And when the staff escorted them out, it wasn't like they were smashing chairs or, knocking people's plates to the floor. So if it's non-violent, I'm less worried about that.
I just think it's it's another example of how we're getting more extremist for everything. Everything's going right, left to extremes. Yeah. And in their minds, you can't possibly eat a piece of meat once a week and be a good human being. And it's bonkers.
Well, they're entitled to be wrong.
Absolutely, but it's a first world problem too. So I mean, people from the third world and people who are poor and struggling, trying to get the next meal, they see it as, a group of crazy people. But again, Trudy is 100% correct. They are entitled to their decisions, and you know what? Let them have a platform to say it, and it's all good. But again, this is not a problem that impacts on a lot of people. Most people in Montreal, they want to get out of poverty and get a piece of chicken.
Get a piece of chicken?
Yeah.